Welcome to Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. What crazy diet am I on this week? Is it just eating oranges? How about the ones that just eat watermelon? Or fast one day, eat one day not? Only eat between the hours of 7 and 11 at night or 7 and 11 in the morning. How about the keto diet, the low carb diet, the no sugar diet, the Atkins diet? On the show today, we're going to talk about which diet, or not even a diet, which way to eat for seniors, those of us who are aging. Is it more important for the babies to have the nutrition, for us as the seniors? Well, I'm sure the answer is for all of the above, but we're going to talk about, are these diets fake? Are they fads? Or what is the best way to eat here in New Mexico? We're going to find out from my experts right after this. Stay with us as we talk about eating and nutritional eating on Issues and Answers. They say across the nation, the computer says, about 5 to 10% of Americans say that they identify as vegan or vegetarian, although just 2% of older adults are vegetarians. And they say the number of Americans who follow a plant-based diet has been steadily increasing since 2004. And I've heard these terms. Have you heard these terms? Of course, I just said vegan or vegetarian. But there's also lacto-vegan, lacto-ovo-vegetarian. There's also paratarian. I don't know, that's eating fish. Oro-vegetarian, that's being a vegetarian but eating eggs. And I was wrong, the lacto was lacto-vegetarian. That means they eat plants and some milk. Okay, wow. Diets, just eat. What? How many are there? 4 food groups? 3 food groups? I forgot how many. 5 food groups?
5 food groups, I think.
Right? Supposedly we're supposed to do that. But I say it's chocolate. What are the food groups? Okay. My guest today, I got a smile out of Manny and Senias. Thank you so much for being a part of the program, Manny. I want to see your beautiful smile. He's the executive director of the Santa Fe Farmers Market Institute. Thanks for being part of the program. You were here talking all about the Institute at another show and how you're a 5th generation rancher in New Mexico, your family is, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having us here today.
And thank you so much for being back. Susan Tarver, she's the executive director of Benvenidos Food Pantry and more in Santa Fe. We're talking about how to eat, and especially as we get older. And I know we've talked on other programs, Susan, with the Benvenidos Pantry. You do so much more for the community regarding food. And with that pantry, you work with Manny. You've worked for a long time with Manny at the El Dorado Food Market. You've been in the business, your family's been in the business of feeding New Mexicans for 5 generations. What's the secret, Manny? Tell us what the secret is of eating well.
Well, we all have our different lenses, right? How we see nutrition. And, I feel like, if you look at the history and the tradition of food in New Mexico, it's very diverse. I'll give a little plug to a movie that's on PBS nowadays. It's called Eating History. It really talks about the history of food in New Mexico. It was a documentary that was put out by an organization called DocuFilms in collaboration with the Museum Foundation of New Mexico. But it really gives us an idea of just how diverse our food is and where it originated from. And if we look just to the history of food in New Mexico, it truly is amazing. You got to think about the landscape and how hard it is to grow food in New Mexico across a majority of the land. And at least for us coming out of traditional roots in New Mexico, it was you grew and you ate what you grew.
You ate what you grew.
Right, and I think what we always found is that was always really, for our family, staple was beans and potatoes and squash, and some corn if you had enough water. But for us, that really continues to be the staple. In addition to, obviously, animal protein, became more popular. Again, the Native Americans hunted for generations. As we brought domestic livestock into New Mexico, it became more of a staple into our diets, whether it's lamb or cabrito or beef or pork. Very much part of the cuisine that's really, at least through my lens, makes up a well-balanced diet for New Mexicans.
I didn't hear too many greens in there.
You know, I think, historically, I would say, New Mexicans haven't eaten they're not used to growing salad because you just don't grow a lot of salad here. But I think squash was basically the vegetable of choice.
And what about the fruits?
You know, the fruits, so again, the amazing apples that are grown throughout northern New Mexico, the cherries, growing a lot of strawberries and blueberries and blackberries in northern New Mexico along the waterways.
And apricots.
And of course apricots,
So
it's well balanced, but I feel like, the healthiest of diets, whether you're an infant or you're a senior, I think is really dialed into fresh, local, nothing processed. I think that's really the basis for healthy nutrition, the one that really complements who we are as human beings, that really we've gotten away from, over the decades, as food has really not really has become more commercialized, right? It's about selling food, convenient food, and for, I guess, the history and the legacies of food production in New Mexico, it was about sustenance and producing for yourself and producing for your neighbors.
That's interesting. That's a good point, Manny. We don't have much, maybe here in Albuquerque, but much processed food. We don't produce food. I mean, I'm told you I'm from Minnesota. We have General Mills, all those food processors up there, but really not here. We just have food from the land here. You working, Susan, with Bienvenidos Pantry. You feed a lot of people in Santa Fe and the surrounding area. Regarding the elderly population, what is important for them? What have you seen over the years? The way that they eat, the way that you've been told they should eat, because you take information from Manny, from other organizations that tell you about nutrition. What are they telling you?
A lot of our elderly people have been with us for a while. We've seen a real change in their diet, and a lot of it has to do with their doctors saying, recommending fresh foods and eating better than they have been. There's an opposite thing on that too. As you get older, and I don't know if I've noticed it, there are certain things I used to love to eat that I cannot eat anymore in big quantities. Onions, things like that, garlic.
You know, Susan used to eat big quantities of onions here.
Oh, God, I lived in a house that used onion on everything. Everything.
I thought it was chili on everything, not onions on everything.
Chili too, because I do come from a Hispanic family, so I always had the bowl of chili there. But people, their appetites change too as you get older. And I've talked to a couple of doctors of my own that I know, and other people. We've had little discussion groups with our elderly people, and they're like, we can't, we need to increase our fruit. We need to eat cleaner food. And at least when I buy from farmers, I know I'm getting clean food.
What does clean food mean, Manny and Sanyas?
I think clean food, obviously there's always a lot of marketing claims when you go to a grocery store, but when you go to the farmer's market across New Mexico, you can be guaranteed that, at least at the Santa Fe Farmers Market, that the food has been vetted to be free of pesticides, herbicides, grown in organic, conditions and management.
So is everything at the farmers market organic?
Not everything is certified organic, right? Because that's a lot of paperwork, and it's a big, big paper trail. But most farmers, again, number one, don't have the means to basically pay for herbicides and pesticides. So that's an added plus, and we'll chalk ourselves up to that list. And but a majority of the stuff at the farmers market in Santa Fe specifically is, again, grown free of anything that we would call, again, not natural.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a hard market to get into.
Because I thought it was really difficult to grow fruits and vegetables without the pesticides.
So I think, that's a misnomer, right? I think that's the thing, when you go back to the traditions and the culture of New Mexico, we've been growing food here for hundreds of years, and so there's a lot of biological opportunities to prevent pesticides, and obviously intensive management keeps the weeds out. Right, so it's, the reason why we use herbicides to get weed control is because people don't want to go out there and pull the weeds, right? But on a lot of our small farms and ranches, that's just part of the everyday management of those farms. From the pesticide standpoint, we have a lot of biological ways to keep the pests off the plants, right? So you can come up with an organic vinegar spray, or there's a lot of different mixtures out there, but they're all organic, where you can keep, again, both the bugs and the weeds out of your fields to grow the most amazing food that's the most highly nutritious available.
Do you believe that 90% of the food in northern New Mexico, grown in northern New Mexico, is pesticide and herbicide free?
I can't say that for 90%. I think I know that the food that has to go through a vetted system, like the Santa Fe Farmers Market, it's the number 8 market in the country.
Number 8.
Number 8. And I think the uniqueness of it is it's been around for a lot of years, and again, they don't just let anybody go into the market. Everything is vetted. It's from a production quality standpoint, and so you have to have that in place to keep the good food in and the bad food out.
Wow, what a treat! What a extraordinary thing to do. I didn't know it was the 8th most popular market in the nation.
Year after year, it's in the top 10, and that's a testimony to, again, the organization and the farmers who year after year have been producing food in northern New Mexico on the same land that their families were raised in the food.
At Bienvenidos Pantry, again, regarding the senior population, are you required, or does the government or whoever you get grants from, United Way, require that you have organic food for the fresh food?
No, they don't. We choose to have to try to have organic food or pesticide-free foods for our customers. We want to see everybody eat healthy. If
they have pesticides, does it mean that they're not healthy?
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not healthy, because a majority of the food grown in the United States and abroad has pesticides on it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a cleaner derivative of healthy, nutritious food, right? The food that we grow in northern New Mexico, again, it grows in an arid environment, where a lot of food grown throughout the country is grown in different environments where pests are more prone as well.
Oh, okay, good point. Yeah, we're fortunate. Thank you for that. We're fortunate we can open our windows and doors without worrying about the pests coming in.
So people our older people too, outside of their own health issues, the ones that have their grandchildren with them now, they want to make sure they have good, healthy food for them. It's nice to see that they're taking interest in that, and they said, can you get us some, fresh raspberries or something? During the summer, we always have a list. These are the things that we can get, and let us know what you want. And I have my vendors at the El Dorado Farmers Market. We are getting food now from the Institute's Farmers Market. We're going to get some from you, some meat. I'm going to add in some healthy meats and delicious meats that Manny has. But it's important. We have a lot of you'd be surprised how many doctors do say you need to eat better, and our customers will say, these are the foods that they should be eating. Can you please get this for them? And we will honor a doctor's request as long as somebody presents it to us. And most of the time it does stipulate at best organic, or pesticide free.
I read online seniors may need fortified foods. What does that mean, Manny? Fortified foods.
So I would say a fortified food is really something that's really concentrated, because again, their meal size is not as big, right? But they're going to need something where all the nutrition is easily accessible whenever they digest it, right? So again, your processed foods they're not very digestible, and they contain a lot of stuff that's not organic. So again, if something that's fortified is going to have the nutrition easily accessible.
But now, is that something we produce, or is that something that's grown, or is that something that's...
It's just naturally occurring in fresh food.
Fortified.
It's fortified, right? So all of your zinc is highly available. All your copper is highly available. All your selenium is highly available.
And why is that?
Because
it comes from the ground?
Because it's ground and it's natural.
It comes from the ground.
Right, so whereas if you go to the grocery store and you buy something in a package, in a box, right, it's going to have those same elements of nutrition, but they're synthetically produced mineral. right? And so really what infants and the seniors need is they need nutrition that is really bioavailable, that when they eat it, they know that almost 100% of that nutrient is going to be absorbed for use into the body.
Very good. I read also that it's important seniors lose their sense of thirst, and probably taste, but drinking a lot of water, of course, is important for everybody, but they say 64 fluid ounces for seniors to be drinking, but they lose their sense to drink. Have you seen that, experienced that with elderly people at the Bienvenidos?
Yes, I have, definitely. And even in my family, my sisters are in their 80s, and I'm constantly pushing them to drink water. I have a sister that just doesn't like to drink water. She goes, half a glass is enough for me. And I can't tolerate it. She goes, she doesn't feel good when she does that. So, yeah, and I think, again, I'm at the point where I can sympathize when if you go to a medical doctor and you have to do tests and they tell you drink 3 bottles of water before you come, and it's like, are you crazy? But yeah, no, they do need different. You can get it through food, The watermelon is a very good way to.
And we have watermelons here, don't we?
Yeah.
Have a lot of amazing fruits and vegetables that have a high water portion of what their makeup, which is a great way to get the water in indirectly.
But we have them in New Mexico, the watermelon and the melons.
The melons, oh yeah, they're amazing. We're a few months out, but the melons and the watermelons grow in northern New Mexico.
At the beginning of the show, I mentioned this. I had a hard time saying it. The lacto vegetarians, lacto-ovo vegetarians, paradamian vegetarians, ovo vegetarians, meaning you eat eggs, blah, blah, blah. What about vegetarians? I mean, it's plant-based, and you have fresh fruits and vegetables at the farmer's market. What's your experience seeing at the farmer's market, at the Institute, vegan or vegetarians? Manny.
Well, I think across a lot of old cultures, where there was no animal-based proteins, it was part of the region, right? So you have different parts of the world where they don't have access to proteins like we do here in the United States, so in a developed country. So it's very much part of the culture. I think today in the United States, I think we're blessed that we have a choice. Consumers have a choice of what they want to eat, how they want to eat. And I definitely believe that, again, based on your ancestry, your body is accustomed to digest certain types of food. So I feel like at the farmer's market, and in Santa Fe, we give consumers the opportunity to be as vegan as they want or as keto as they want. And again, allow them to develop the trust and relationships with farmers and ranchers. Even in our business, as a meat business, I think the energy of the Santa Fe farmer's market is about community. And it's not so much about what you eat versus what you don't eat, but it's about building.
Wait. It's not as much.
It's not so much about, again, it's a lot about the community. It's a community gathering place where you have an abundance amount of options to eat food and to pick all sorts of types of food, whether it's vegetables, it's fruits, it's animal proteins, it's plant-based proteins. And so people really come to the Santa Fe farmers market for the sense of community and the trust and the relationships that were so vital to. Again, that's also a part of the nourishment I think that people need, is that social interaction with people who share common values and valuing the locally grown food. And so I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I feel like, I think as a nutritionist, as a PhD nutritionist, I feel like our bodies need certain nutrients, and our body will tell us when we need certain parts or certain nutrients in our body, whether it's water, the simplest but the most important nutrient, or it's something that you can only get from an animal-based protein. Through our experience of selling meat, we've had a lot of customers that, again, over our 5-year journey with the Santa Fe Farmers Market, were non-meat eaters, maybe second and third generation non-meat eaters, who now have slowly began to come back to eating a certain part of their diet as meat, only because their doctors have told them, only because their body has also craved a little bit of nutrition, whether it's actually a macro or micro mineral, or it could be something just that comes in the form of a bone broth, right? And so we're seeing, some interesting stuff kind of coming out of research that, again, our body needs balance but the body will tell us what balance we need and how to have that. And I think a fresh food market, like a farmer's market, is a great way for consumers to develop relationships and trust with people who grow all types of food. Even myself, as a rancher, we eat beef, almost every single meal. My body still craves my greens. It still craves my vegetables, and it's very much a very simple diet of meat and vegetables is what we consume in our family.
But it's a little. They say now. I mean, doctors say now, red meat, often can affect our hearts.
And I think, again, I'm an academic scientist as well, so I know that, again, it's a lot about the literature that you read. And again, I think there's certain body types, certain genotypes that probably can't digest meat, and it's probably absorbed differently into the body.
But if the fat causes problems with cholesterol.
And I think a lot of that information is kind of outdated.
That's a big statement there, Manny.
Yeah, I do, and I think we're starting to see a lot more interest in people consuming red meat. Yeah,
First time I've heard that. Of course, you're a rancher who produces red meat, but seriously.
I'm also an objective scientist, and I feel like we're seeing a lot of again, great changes in the way people feel, and again, the decreased incidence of a lot of I would call human-caused disease being replaced, and I'm going to speak to one specifically, like allergies. Allergies in New Mexico are a really big issue for a lot of people. But as they've changed away from a lot of products that actually the fungi in your nasal passages want to promote, you're actually seeing, as you're eating more meat, less breads, less cheese, less milk, less dairy. The increased meat is actually making them more robust, and their allergies are actually going away. So.
Eating less of those, what make the allergies more robust?
Well, eating more dairy products actually promotes more allergy symptoms in New Mexicans. But as they replace that with more red meat or other types of meats, their allergy symptoms are going away. That's another topic for another show that I hope that you would entertain.
Wow,
You
heard it first.
But these are the kind of the consumer testimonies that you get as a vendor at the farmers market. As they've transitioned, we begin to see changes in the way people feel. And I feel like that in itself is very important as we try to further explain, again, what types of diets fit certain types of people.
So you're seeing that through your experience at the farmers market.
Oh, yeah.
And you've been there a lot as a meat vendor. As a meat vendor, they share different antidotes about what's going on with their bodies and their diet.
I think it's the greatest way, and we meet them where they're at, and we try not to be too persistent. And again, we're here. We try to be very transparent. And we have some that came to us that were non-meat eaters. They ate meat for a little bit, and then they went back to not eating meat. But their body filled up, and they got what they needed out of the meat, and they'll continue to transition. But it's a great opportunity that I think should be extended to everybody. And again, that's why we work so hard to bring fresh food to those who don't have access to it. And I think that's a big part of our journey together with Bienvenidos.
We make sure that our customers know who we get food from too, and that I don't think there's been one farmer or rancher who said, like, no, I don't want them to bother me. There's like, if they have any questions, have them call me if they have. So it's a nice perk to give these people, like, here.
But I mean,
can
people
get you
Bienvenidos are concerned about that. I can see
Yeah.
people going to the
Yeah.
farmers market, paying the extra
Yeah.
high price,
Yeah.
would be concerned. But you're
Oh,
saying
my
your
people
clients
love
as well.
it. Yeah, when they look for the board, if the board isn't out, you don't have anything from the farmers.
Well,
You know, they like to know, but they will call them too. And I've had it in some
Well,
cases.
they're calling just to see
to
about
find
when the
out,
product-
you know, like how
when
do
will the
I
raspberries be?
how do
Yeah,
I use arugula?
Well,
How do I use this? How do I use that? I've never eaten kohlrabi, right? How do I eat that?
Okay.
And they're good. No.
Price-wise, of course, farmers market would be more expensive produce than at the supermarket.
Historically, in the current climate where the tariffs are coming into play, right? We'll see a lot of the commercially available fruits and vegetables, especially this time of the year, are coming from other parts of the world. So with the increased tariffs, there's likely going to be more of a equal balance between
What do you
the costs.
what do you think of that?
Well, I think there's opportunity, again, to really value the local food that's produced,
No,
in
but
your
the price,
community.
it used to be a differentiating price because you could get cheaper food from Mexico or Venezuela or whatever. Now, I mean, some farmers say that's not fair to the American farmer.
It's tough. It depends. I mean, we're all part of agriculture. We're just involved in the local food system. The premium prices that consumers pay at the farmer's market, I think we have to again look at the quality of the food. You buy greens at the farmer's market that were harvested the day before or the morning of, and they'll last 2 or 3 weeks in your fridge. You can say that. You can speak that across all of the products there. They have an increased shelf life, but again, going back to fortified foods, the nutrition is more available because the products were grown with tender care and they were harvested at an optimal time, not in advance of a 2 or 3 hour destination to a consumer's plate.
Very good. Thank you so much. And if they want more information, how do they find it about you, Manny, and Senius and the Santa Fe Farmers Institute?
You can go to the Santa Fe Farmers Market Institute website, which is farmersmarketinstitute.org.
Thank you. Smile for us. You've been a delight on the show. Appreciate you being here and
Thank
for all
you.
the information. And again, to meet and have on Issues and Answers, a fifth-generation rancher, is just an honor for us. And thank you and your family for staying in business.
Thank you so much.
For producing the food. And thank you so much, Susan Tarver, for all that you're doing. And we'll see you on various shows as we discuss nutrition and, of course, bienvenidos. Thanks for watching the show. I'm Diane Kinderwater. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program, email us at info@kchftv.org or call us at 505-345-1991. Join us again for Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater.